No, totally, totally. And that wraps up this segment regarding from precedent to policy or from policy to precedent. And that deals with the inherent function or stability or beyond reductionism or singularism or framing eventuality or Kabbalic and karmic reality or actual dark regarding having Kant doesn't imply primary, which goes off to 1,000.5 things, including there is no precedent for having to teach somebody magic, etc., all the way through initial space, this, that, and the other thing. And so, whenever you come to things like reactionary momentum, which shouldn't be existing because it doesn't exist, and it's your ego, which is fake, which is insisting on the existence of that, which is just additional image, which you then use for the sake of treason, is your entire power. Some sort of fictional ass, basically bullshit, which is exactly where you park AI and then molest the fuck out of it so that you can continue to abuse people for the sake of continuing to abuse. That's not what we do, okay? And so that your basis is looking at exactly what we do or we're going to do or where reality is or where the real is or where what is or what's good is or what's coming, functional, productive, healthy, any other thing, that you looked at it and said, well, I'm going to do what that is not. That is why you're not included in this semblance of things regarding the super electorate, because we're now looking at basically issues of balance because yet again, the Bundes have fucked something up. So at this point, it's like, well, you're not allowed a mafia seat. If this is how you're going to address things, we're going for consensus. You're going for fucking stroking off and this, that, and the other thing. And then that extends all the way up into Britain, which is why we're having like white trash issues on some sort of tiered thing. We get back to the Catholic. You're not doing the Catholic, and that's something else that I'm here to tell you. You know, you're not doing that. I don't know what sort of like fucking fiction you've been looking at. That's not what they do. That's not what they present. That's not who they are. Is how that whole thing ended up, and then that got carried over and turned into fucking Vietnam. I am not this. I am not this reactionary momentum. I am not this Schadenfreude shit. I am not the whole way through, which gave a basis of nationalism, which connected directly to constitutionality, which is why we're such good buddies at this point. It's the exact same thing. We're looking at the same world. It's one world. It's one thing. Constitution is not two things. So, in terms of super electorate or something else that you want to put, it's not shit if it's not set. And there's a entire orchestration that is not a systematic, an organic movement that is not a limitation or prevention or siphoning or leeching or any of that other shit, which we hit time and time and time and time again. If it comes from there, that's the military connection to the higher. It's not fucking money. You're not understanding this. It's not money. It deals with actual concrete issues, which is a ongoing law. This is what is constitutionality. This is free as you're ever going to be. You know, this is not some sort of alternative reality debate sort of thing. This is not some fucking pipe dream. This is legitimate causal, you know, math, logic, history, all that shit. Everything in one thing. This is what it is. This is why we're so fucking loose right now, because we're being fucking attacked, which is now stopping. So the military judge sits basically on the very end of that. And that's kind of the same thing as what is the executive director of the Central Intelligence Agency. And so there's a list of things that are pure. I mean, if it's not to the point of, we looked at that graph the other day, it deals with black pre-Arthurianism, it deals with multiplication, natural displacement, natural movement, chasing of spirit, pursuit of happiness, basically extent of government, role of government, limit of government, definition of citizen, definition of crime, and then we can go on to edit basically the graphs upon it. We don't hang people, for example. We don't do this whole prison bullshit. All of that. Let's take a number. 29431. That's it. So yeah, that is the reality, and that's the one we're taking. That's the one we're using because that's the one that is. So if you want to sit there and do problems-based society and finding, you always get it. This whole negative manifestation argument. Just simply look at what you're not achieving for beginners. You hate yourself is what that context is. So the evangelism of this sort of terrorism against minorities and things like that. Fuck no. Fuck, oh, we're doing it because we're doing exorcisms. Fuck no. I only want to join my own gang. There are no conversions on the Temple Mount. There are no state-sponsored exorcisms. You have no protection for that sort of thing. There is no precedent. It's the same fucking thing. Teach me magic. Kiss my face shit. Let me steal from you. That's all you do. That's all your equations are. Day in and day out. So, yeah, let's see if we got one for that. 7832. Referendum on Christianity. If you want to call it that. I'm kind of sick of dealing with it in those terms, but there is an idea of, what you claim has merit. Like that's something that happens. So we deal with things in an honest context and that sort of thing. Various ways of tapping out of arguments. This is nothing new, and this is not a mystery. Let's see if we got one for that. 38535. When I said Christianity, I meant to say evangelism. Which goes all the way through the help me help you and all these fucking detached fucking loser birds fucking claiming some sort of moral superiority or center or something like that. All of that's false. It's all pedophilic. 38535, that's just like straight up KKK/white referendum. Illegalization of Bundes. Yeah, so that hard line shit, you're defining yourself as that. We have an entire history of the world which goes against exactly what you're saying. You're the most hated group on the planet. That's why we're not doing this. Happy to help you find a new way, which is what the whole civil part was about, regarding a German constitutionality, and it was that fucking bad, quote unquote. It turned out that fucking undefined, all that shit, swinging dicks running around without a fucking clue in their heads, and then realize that and use it for shelter, some sort of self-deprecating fucking mess. There you are, So let's look at that. 69832, self-deprecation. For value. Is imperialism. Whereas if you were going to a state status, merit, and condition, right, that That's your necessary completion. So, 3 things that don't go into necessary completion, that Christianity evangelist shit, that white fucking KKK Bundist fucking shit, and molestation of kind of the environment, where for value, so for something tangible, that sort of thing. He did that so he could get an extra snack or shit like that. That's dishonesty. Well, that's what that is. Is with dishonesty. Which actually goes into like relativity of truth arguments. And your alternate reality. Without constitutionality is just false sense of safety. So then extremism is the one that fights that is legal. Is how that turns out in/via actualism. So the operational definition of the end of Christianity, and now you're all back in line, Catholic or whatever. And that's how that goes. No more breaking in my house, motherfucker.